literally disconnected the stream. All right, we'll get it going again.
And now you're super grainy and choppy. Like, what the fuck,
Suck.
man? Can Comcast make sure that both of our internet connections work? And if anybody watching hasn't seen, South Park does a really great. I think it is Comcast that they talk about.
It is Comcast. No, it's literally Comcast.
He's got
the nipple flaps.
With fucking nipple flaps that on Velcro can rip them open so he could rub his nipples while he says, "Where are you gonna go?
Tell me about how bad our service is." Oh, yeah. We are back live.
I figured as much. All I was saying is that
South Park Comcast.
they're clearly providing more prep time to other teachers. Not only do ours work a very long day comparably, more than the average, right?
Yeah.
But they also spend more time engaged with students than the average.
Right.
And so...
which is incredibly stressful.
Means that they're going home and working. And I know, like, my kids are elementary school students and they're teachers. And that's the thing. It's kind of like the opposite of cops. No, it really is, I think.
Yeah.
Is that, like, cops... there's such a fucking low bar for like performance and for ethics
for not murdering people.
Yeah, for not murdering black and brown people and poor fucking homeless people and shit. Like with cops, it's just like they'll take just about anybody. And I mean, there is a standard, but like it doesn't seem to be applied. And then with teachers, and I guess my point is with cops, they won't fire the bad apples, right? Mm-hmm. And then with teachers, like, and so the only people that are police officers are either corrupt or absolutely okay or acquiesce to corruption, right? And for teachers, the only people that stay teachers are ones that are willing to fucking sacrifice a ton to be a teacher.
Yeah. Nowhere else do you have to do that.
Because they don't get paid a lot and they work all the time. And they have families too, right? Like my eldest daughter's teacher, fortunately her younger son is at the school, so she can bring him to the classroom and hang out with him after school while she does lesson planning and stuff.
That's nice.
So she still gets to see her son, but she's not with her husband, and like she's got an elderly parent living with her, so like she's still not with her family at her space where she can take her shoes off and put her sweatpants on, right? Like she's there all day.
Valuable. Very valuable.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's keep going on the clip, man.
Yep.
Teachers in these countries get more time for planning, grading, and collaborating with each other. So do all those extra teaching hours translate to better results? Students in the US score slightly above the OECD average on the PISA exam, which tests 15-year-olds all over the world in reading, science, and math. But they score lower than students in countries like Finland, South Korea, Japan, and Singapore, where teaching hours are much lower. If we look inside Anna and Sophia's classrooms in the US and Finland, we'd see Anna teaching an hour and a half more per day than Sophia. Anna also spends more time planning lessons, grading student work, and leading extracurricular activities. But those extra hours aren't necessarily reflected in Anna's paycheck. If you compare Sophia to other people in Finland with college degrees, she makes about 98 cents for every dollar that they make. That's on par with the pay ratio between teachers and college graduates in similar countries. But Anna and other American middle school teachers only make about 65 cents for every dollar that their college-educated peers make.
And that is the real gut punch right there. Because you notice they said their college-educated peers when talking about the other countries, but in America you have to be a college-educated peer to teach.
Yeah,
not so just
college-educated. Yeah. For a single subject credential, you have to have a bachelor's degree and then another year of schooling to get your credential.
Exactly, and so it's actually more educated than a lot of people that just took an engineering degree and went off and became civil engineers.
Right, precisely. You have at least another year of education over most four-year university graduates.
Yeah, and you're not getting paid dick for it. It's horrible. And then we expect and then we expect just the world of all of our teachers, and we wonder why they fucking break down and they quit. That was the end of the video. Basically states that teachers in America are only like 33% likely to be like, I'm appreciated, as opposed to Finland where it's 66, and you're much more likely to lose a teacher just due to burnout or lack of appreciation, like.
Yeah. This is another aside, but when I was in the military, because it was after the financial crisis, right? Like, so there was a lot of us who had either a lot of college or finished our degrees and then went and enlisted in the military because we had no economic prospects.
Yeah.
There was a guy in my air traffic unit who had a master's degree in English and had been a school teacher for like 6 fucking years. And like, he looked at his life. He's like, I'm in my late 20s going on 30. And he's like, the military won't take me much longer.
That's
Right. Like, I think there's a cutoff.
It's 35 years old. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so he was like, yeah, in his late 20s, early 30s, clearly an adult, had already been a school teacher for 6 years or whatever, and with a master's degree. So that's what, at least 6 years of university education,
Yep.
right? And he decided to go into air traffic and enlist in the military because he was in South Carolina, I want to say, and he's just like, I can't even pay off. And that's what he did too, is because they had an incentive in the military.
Yeah.
You could either use it to pay for more education or you could pay off education debt. And they had this pool of money for people. So he was one of the guys that came in and got like 15 grand erased off of his education debt by enlisting.
Yeah.
And that's why he did it. Because he's like, I will never get out of like my student loan debt, getting paid like virtually nothing and like having a really shitty job where the administrator who's, there from 8 to 4, right? And maybe occasionally has to do something on the weekends, like if like a pipe breaks and he needs to like call the maintenance guys or whatever. I don't know. He's getting paid so much more for doing so much less.
Right. And I got the same story for a guy with an electrical engineering degree. He basically couldn't find a job in this area. And so he's like, fuck it, I'll just go join the military. And so like, I'm studying side by side with a guy who basically knows everything that's going on in the class.
Yeah.
Just like, stay and teach me.
Yeah, exactly. And you see that a lot. In especially post financial crisis, I would think. I
mean, this
was
earlier. This was like 2000. Yeah, but
you were before that. But still, like I saw a lot of it because there was like 3 or 4 people in my unit that had college degrees, and then like another 6 that had like a couple years of college but never finished a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
And that's just, and then we're like, well,
there's just no hope.
What do I do? We're like, they were in school and then they saw the economy tank and they're like, why am I going to fucking pay for 2 more years of this shit when like I'm not going to get a job? So they just went in the military. And then got a GI Bill so they could go back to school when they wanted to.
They could do more school once they're done. So now we have a continuation.
The PBS NewsHour, fantastic. And this is our last clip, correct?
U.S.
There's one more I could do, but we don't have to do it. It's about
one
grade
word
schools.
for the results.
Okay.
I could sum it up pretty easily.
Disappointed.
King says the Obama administration has championed educational best practices. For example, an emphasis on teacher quality and early education. Many states have also adopted the Common Core, which sets high standards of what children should know at each grade. But, he says,
one of the challenges in our system, different from many of our international competitors, is that it is a highly decentralized system. So change takes a particularly long time.
A lot of people say, it's not fair to look at these results and compare us to other countries which are more homogenous.
Sure, we have to be cautious as we look at these results. At the same time, we can look at a country like Canada. It's had a very large influx of immigrants over the last few years and is doing better. We can look at countries around the world like Poland, which is a country that has significant population of low-income students, and yet they've made a lot of progress over the last decade, and we should ask why.
Julia Kempster and her family moved from New Zealand to Maryland earlier this year. She gets asked a lot of questions from classmates.
Can you talk for me? Can you say the number 10 for me? Is it true that there's one person to every 65 sheep?
It's true.
School is very different in the US. More students, more tests. But the biggest difference, Julia says, is in New Zealand, she had to interpret and analyze information a lot more.
This is the important
Here
part.
it's like you get everything from the book. It's like the facts of the facts, and there's lots of dates you have to memorize because everything's like very important, and it's not a lot about what you think, but what's in the book.
Despite the differences, Julia's a typical teenager. She loves the social aspects of her US school.
In America, like, you have lots of dances and social things that you get to go to, which is very fun. You get to do, obviously, like homecoming and everything like that. Yeah, it's fun.
American high schools place a huge emphasis on the social life of teenagers.
And that's part of the problem, says Tom Lovelace with the Brookings Institution. He says homecoming, prom, rallies may help teach teamwork and creativity, but don't improve academics. He says we need to look at the role culture plays in reinforcing education. Lovelace surveyed almost 400 foreign exchange students who spent a year in an American high school and asked them about the relative importance given to math and sports.
I asked them, among your friends, among your peer groups, how important is it to be successful at mathematics? And they said, well, the foreign exchange students said, well, back home it's fairly important whether or not you're good at mathematics. In the United States, not so much. And then I asked about sports. How important is it to be a good athlete? And with both boys and girls, and no matter from what country they came from, they said in the United States the emphasis on being a good athlete was much more important in the United States than back with their peer groups in their home country.
How much do you think that has to do with being an imperial fucking power?
Not only that, but like how much importance we place on sports and
Well, physical
aggrandizing. Yes, and physical prowess and aggrandizing, all the people that are in the sports and all that. Oh, yeah, that's just terrible. Like, hey, here's this thing that can change the world, but fuck that, if you could throw a ball good.
And there's a lot, like, because, like, dude, at my high school, it's been 20 fucking years. I still remember some of this stuff, some of the details. We had, our teachers are the ones who do the athletics. They mentioned earlier how, like, there's extracurricular
Unpaid
activities
shit.
And other things. Well, I think the football coaches did get a
They do
stipend
get
of
it,
some kind. At least for varsity sports. I don't think junior varsity sports did. Usually they were volunteers from the community who
Gotcha.
just those guys who are just like, they're really into high school football, and so they're might have played college ball a little bit, and so they're now older and don't have the knees for it or whatever, and they teach the junior varsity as like just kind of like a hobby, right? Like, but I do believe the varsity got a stipend of some kind. It wasn't a lot. They were not like college, university, or college or university football.
$200,000 to $300,000
coaches, you get paid even more than that sometimes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. They're like
that's a whole nother. College football is fucking insane.
Slavery with extra steps.
Slavery with extra steps. But at any rate, the point is that they are also teachers, and I could see in like one of the I didn't play varsity football. I played junior varsity, and then I was like, it's too much fucking work. Like, you just have to lift weights and practice all the time. And I'm like, I just wanted to fucking smoke weed.
And study, children.
Well, no, I mean, no children are watching this. Number one, hopefully. I hope not.
We're bad influences. Stay away.
We are. But also, like, I just didn't. It's just, I knew that I'm not an athlete.
Right.
I like to play. But like I knew I was never going to be even good in college or a professional. So I'm like, this would just be for like literally for the glory of like high school. It's like, which is just a blip in time in terms of your whole life.
I mean, it's good for Ed Bundy or or wasn't that the Married with Children character?
Al Bundy, yeah.
Al Bundy, that's what it was. And he went to Polk High, through the football.
Yeah. But at any rate, I didn't play varsity, but like one of the teachers there who was the varsity football coach taught English. And in senior year, you had an option. You could do poetry, you could do like antiquity and like read like Greek myths and shit like that. Yeah. Or you could do like some other stuff. And they had just like a couple different tracks that you could do to kind of get into English in a specific way. Yeah. And so I did poetry, of course. Anyway, all of the athletes were like went into his mythology class, and you're always like, that's fucking weird. That, like, all the athletes are going into the coach's class,
and all of them have C's.
And it's just basically like, because the school won't let you keep playing football if you get bad grades. So take my class so that you can play football. And then those characters. I know,
Yeah.
I'm not saying all of them. There were some athletes, and this is the same in college too, right? College balls and people who became pro football players. They were really fucking good at it. Still took their academics very seriously, right? And so you have these like pro football player. You would think it's just like, oh, he's probably just whatever, some like
communications degree.
Yeah, but or what is it? Kinesiology. A lot of them take like sports medicine, stuff like that when they're athletes. Which is kind of cool, yeah, right? If you like athletics and you want to work with athletes for the rest of your life, that's a good career choice. But at any rate, like, yeah, it's just remarkable that they put so much emphasis on the athletics, and I can't help but think that has to do with us being an imperial power and part of our chauvinism. The way that, like, there was a show, I think, was it called Friday Night Lights, that was like super
I believe that
popular.
was
I never watched it, but I know the South.
Right.
And not only is college football a big fucking deal, but like high school football.
Roll Tide.
And that's college. But yeah.
I know what.
And yeah, they take it very fucking seriously.
Oh yeah.
And then you like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just weird because like there's that kind of like competitive, our team versus the other team. Like that was something I experienced too, where it was like, oh, they're our rival. Like, what the fuck is rivalry except like teaching people? Friendly competition's fine, right?
Oh, it's teaching people to have the other,
Yeah, exactly. And
value your in-group.
And more importantly than that, they put all this emphasis, like social emphasis too, right? Like the kids who played Magic the Gathering in the cafeteria at lunchtime, like everybody, this was, early 2000s, so everybody's like, oh no, they're gonna be Columbine kids. Like, they got called into the office all the time because like people would be like, those kids are fucking crazy. They're gonna fucking shoot up the school, and then they have to do an investigation, and they're like, no, they're just playing Magic in the fucking cafeteria. and then the athletes, they got just so much social capital, right?
Yeah.
And most of them turned out to be fucking nobodies.
Right.
Like, you just get a job, whatever, do whatever.
Well, there's only so many spots for football. Yeah.
What's that?
There's only so many spots on a football team, and there's only so many professional teams and so many college teams.
And maybe part of that is because high school athletics, especially contact sports like football, basketball is a little better. Although you have all sorts of permanent fucking injuries. Like when you're 16 now, you just fucked up your knee. Like, you may feel like you recovered, but come 45 or 50, you're not going to be able to use that leg. And for what? Because you wanted to score 15 points in the fourth quarter?
Little moments of glory. Yeah.
And then you have all this new research on traumatic brain injury, and the rate of TBI in the homeless community is fucking astronomical. It's something like 6 out of 10 unhoused people have had some kind of brain injury at some point in their life. That's why they're not competitive in a housing market that just crushes everybody, that can't keep up with rising rents, right?
Makes sense.
And so then you glorify the athletics over the academics. Academics keep a sharp mind. Athletics make you stupid by giving you fucking brain injuries. No, but for real, like, concussions are fucking real.
Been there, yeah. They are not fun to have. Get a lot of lost time.
Yeah, and at any rate, like, I'm not really surprised at all by that, because just our experience, even though we're somewhat far removed, is like that. And I live across the street from not only a like large high school.
Isn't it like the more financially endowed of the two high schools as well?
Yes, and it wins state championships for high school football, and it is the high school that Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, went to, and so he's donated meaning sheltered from taxes, a ton of money in that school.
Hey, if you hadn't pointed it out, I would have.
And I mean, more power to him. Like, I don't think he's a bad guy. He's just doing with what he is, but like, athletics are very serious Friday nights are fucking insane. You can't move. There's so much traffic. There's people from the community who don't even have students at the school that are coming and paying for a ticket to go to the game. And but one cool thing about the school is that we had a football team. We did not really have a functional color guard and band.
Mhm.
These guys across the street have their fucking marching band is sick, actually. And so they do have another option for people who want to participate in that kind of like community building, creativity, blah, 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 but also focus on something that is using their mind and their soul rather than just using their bodies as cannon fodder, because that's what a football player is.
I didn't realize that like
anyway,
marching band and color guard and all that were not an everywhere thing.
Yeah, no, it's
we
very
had
expensive.
And so I was just like, oh, okay, cool. You know, that's a given. And then I'm finding out now, like, no, even in like a big ass city like this, not all the high schools have like marching bands. They might have football teams, but they don't have.
It's very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, all those instruments, uniforms, like you're paying someone to teach because like they're out there starting before the school year starts. They're out there fucking practicing.
Yeah.
Doing their marching, playing.
I couldn't imagine trying to do it here. It'd be so fucking miserable.
Yeah, and then come Friday night, dude, it's loud, man. They have a big stadium. I mean, I don't know what the capacity is, but it seems bigger than the one I went to. We only had like bleachers on like one side of the field, and then you could have the track, right? People could like line up on the track, lawn chairs and shit. Here they have like, it's not 360 like a professional athletic arena. But they have big fucking bleachers on either side.
It's not quite a coliseum, but it's close.
Yeah. It's just remarkable how big it is. And like
now that I think about it, we only had one side at my high school too, so we must not have been that important.
Yeah, and like the other high school here has a football team. Any of the good players, like anybody that shows any promise, gets
transfers,
incentivized to come to the other school and transfer.
We'll bus you over.
What is the incentive? Oh, you don't actually have to do your academics if you are good at football here.
Yeah.
And then you got a bunch of people coming out with fucking rattled brains and without good academic footing. And then you're like, okay, go succeed in this economy where like one little fuck up can ruin you for the rest of your life.
And now the rest of society has to support you as a homeless person. Huzzah.
But we're not supporting them. We're exterminating them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're exterminating our failed football players. Be good.
Most of the TBIs, I think, are related to automobile accidents and on the job accidents, like construction trades and shit, falls, things like that. But a lot of automobile accidents. So it's not. I mean, I don't know if they've ever asked, or did you play high school football and get concussions?
They should.
I don't. Maybe some people who study it have. I know that TBI itself is very prevalent among the unhoused. I know that much, but I don't want to say like, oh, it's all the football players, right?
No, I mean, and the thing is, you don't even have to be a football player. You don't have to be necessarily like in a dangerous area. I was just in high school. Someone grabbed the back of my backpack and swung me around, bam, hit the back of my head full on the concrete. And like, who's to say I don't have traumatic brain injury from that? I never went to the hospital.
I've rattled my head pretty hard a couple times, but only once was I like, without a doubt, this is a concussion. Because I said, like, dude, it took me 2 fucking days before I was like thinking straight again. Like I felt like I was, kind of like when you wake up, like you're on like, gotta catch a plane or something and you have 4 hours of sleep and you're like walking through the airport and you're like not really there. It kind of all feels surreal. It felt like that for 2 fucking days, bro.
Damn.
I didn't crack my skull, I don't think, but I hit myself really fucking hard on the top of the head.
Yeah, luckily for me, it was the back, so I don't think it was quite as bad as it could have been. But still, that shit.
At any rate, we don't pay teachers and we overemphasize athletics. And I think, and you never really responded how you felt about that idea that like it's part of nationalism. Right?
I mean, it totally makes sense to me because you need to have strong people to go join the military and so on and so forth in order to oppress people. And so it is reflected in our society that you have strength, physical strength, even though, like, let's face it, nowadays, most of the time you're flying a jet or running a drone or something like that. And the only job that physical strength matters anymore is like oppressing a bunch of brown people on the streets in a country you
The
can't
infantrymen are
pronounce.
gonna be there too. But
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Those kids that wore the long trench coats and played Magic the Gathering in the cafeteria probably
They're operating
kids and
drones.
drone pilots.
I mean, I can say that I operated a nuclear reactor, so it's not. I wasn't out there, on the top, pounding sand.
You
Nope.
needed to be able to lift 50 pounds and climb up and down
I
the
was
ladder.
I was in a comfortable chair in an air conditioned room.
I was in comfortable chairs in an air conditioned space, although towers never truly are air conditioned. You can't do that when you're in a glass house.
I was surprised how comfortable it was. Like, I thought it was going to be a lot worse because, like, where do you put the heat? But it was pretty nice in that one room. It was an incentive to get qualified and do the job. Get to sit in the air conditioning.
Do you have anything else for us?
I got one short clip. It's like a minute and a half.
Do it.
Would not mind playing.
I was wondering if you could talk today about the differences between apprenticeships and trade school.
Trade schools obviously been around for a long time. I went to trade school 21 years ago. I started at Vatterott College. It was a good experience, very hands-on. It's one of the things that I liked about the particular school was a lot of lab, a lot of real-life air conditioners that, just like everybody, we're visual learners. We got to get our hands on things, especially in this industry. You can't just read about it in a book or take a test and think that, okay, now I know how to work on one of these things. Depending on the teacher and how much ownership they take into the students and all those kind of things can play a role in someone's experience and how well everything goes. Definitely a good option for anybody that's interested in getting into a mechanical trade.
What is the difference between what you learn in trade school and an apprenticeship?
The apprenticeship program, a lot of companies are set up now. They are deciding to hire people, find employees that have a good attitude, good personality, in our particular case being a residential service provider, good people skills, those kind of things, and then teach them this industry. So this apprentice program is a way for us to provide a level of education for these applicants and these employees without the need to go to school at all. So a student can avoid the dreadful student loan debts.
Yeah. And the thing is, we barely talk about trade schools in this country. Nonetheless, talking about apprenticeships, because like we were saying before the show, there's like 3 industries that actually have apprenticeships. You can find others that might, but they don't typically guarantee that you'll be paid. Whereas, plumbing, electrical, and what was the last one? Plumbing, electrical, and HVAC will pay you as you do the work. And I think on that video, I actually had it. Yeah, I had the playback speed set to 1.5.
I was going to say
I forgot to turn it back.
No worries.
I watch them fast to like get through them, so I know.
Sure, no, we got the gist of it though, and you're absolutely right. And so, like, even the community, they put that burden, at least, I think in California, they put a lot of that burden on the community college system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
they do.
So,
yeah.
like, I just called because I need a haircut. You can't tell because I was able to comb it back, and it's long enough to tuck behind the ears now. There's that kind of like awkward stage where it's long to where it goes over your ear, but it's not long enough to do the tuck. Anyway, I'm thinking I need a haircut. And so I called the junior college has a cosmetology school.
Yeah.
And they do cheap haircuts for the public because they're getting practice. And they're like, you're not going to get like a super professional cut, but if you want a haircut, well, okay.
What do you care if you're a man? Typically, you're just like, whatever, cut my hair. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, and I had a good experience at the Vidal Sassoon Academy in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
No, I just needed a haircut, and
that's super funny though.
I was told like, dude, it's like an $8 haircut, and like these are like people who are going into like super high end salons. Like they are very skilled, even though they're still students.
Right.
It was a good fucking $10 haircut. I paid more for fucking parking than I did in downtown Santa Monica than I did for the fucking haircut. At any rate, I want to support them, and they also do they do like a veterans discount, so I can get like a ridiculously like less than a fucking sandwich kind of haircut. Where if you go to like the big chains and shit, like Supercuts, I think
they're $18.
25 fucking bucks or something.
That's right. It is. Yeah. It's 25, and you can do the unlimited for 18. But like, who the hell needs more than one haircut in a month?
Right. Exactly. I mean, some people. And when I was in the military, I did. Every 2 weeks.
I skirted the line and refused to get it cut until someone told me to. And they're like, "Oh, you're out of spec." I'm like, "Nope, I'm still within 4 inches, fuckers."
Yeah, no, I had a salon like literally a block from my house, and those women were just amazing. Like I loved them so much, and like I did stop by sometimes just to let them pet my dog. Everybody knew my dog in that town.
R.I.P. Something I wanted to say was that
please.
what we've done in almost every industry, and especially like, in the music industry, and it's brilliant from a business point of view, is we put the responsibility of education and all of that onto the individual. So you need to go to college, you need to go to a trade school. If you're a singer, like, you need to fly out to Los Angeles in order to get on X Factor. Like, we don't need to scout talent anymore, because we can just rely on you to come to us. Like, all of those things come together to make it so that, like, the individual is so responsible for his own personal success or failure. And when you fail, it's all your damn fault, of course. It's not.
Yeah. No, 100%. And not just putting it on the individual, putting it on the fucking taxpayer. So these are private industries putting on an example. I was mentioned community colleges.
Yeah.
They have a barber school, but also they have a welding program.
Right.
And their welding program is specifically designed in conjunction with PG&E, so that PG&E has a pool of people to hire with the skills that they want. But who pays for that education? Now, did PG&E put into that program? I believe PG&E did put some money into the program.
Yeah.
However, it's largely being financed by the public.
Yeah.
So that PG&E has a very skilled worker that's worth way more than they'll ever get paid, because that's how capitalism works.
Mm-hmm.
You do not receive the full value of your labor.
Mm-hmm.
The surplus is taken by your employer. And so we're basically subsidizing PG&E's workforce. And you see that a lot with, like, Google and Apple are doing all these initiatives in these schools to, like, get kids to code. And it's like, why? Because
So
you
that
want
you get cheap
18-year-olds with enough skill to come work for you, but that you can pay like an 18-year-old.
Right. Because
United States, it was for that explicit purpose. So that hasn't fucking changed.
No, not at all. It's still doing the exact same thing it was intended to do.
And so with the athletics, again, real quick, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No. Just kind of passionate. With the athletics, it's teaching you that you're valuable as a team member. Like, you're part of the team. And so, like, that's another part of corporate control, right?
We're a
like,
family.
We're a corporate family. It's like, if we're a family, like, I don't know, my mom's kind of a bitch, but, like, she never fucking took shit from me, and you're taking the value of my labor. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, no, I was going to say, what he's talking about, it is refreshing to see that at least there's some industries, as otherwise, like, everything just reminds me of banking. Like, nobody wants to train people, but at the same time, they all expect trained personnel. Mm-hmm. And so you have to have, so basically what happens a lot is you get the big three, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and Union Bank, I think it is the other big one. Chase. There you go. They will take on, like, relatively inexperienced people, train them up, and then they leave and they go to, like, a more local bank. And so, like, how can you expect to have trained people but not give that training? And that is now expand that countrywide. It's just, and we get around it with I forget what it is, but it's called the Genius Grant, where every year, we can give a certain number of green cards to individuals that are excelling in their field and, highly intelligent. And we just basically poach intelligence from other countries because we haven't been making our own.
It's called the brain drain, actually.
There you go. Yeah.
In international relations, they call it the brain drain, where you have these countries that, like, are actually producing knowledgeable people, but those knowledgeable people aren't staying and helping develop the economy of their home country. They're being exported or essentially imported into the U.S. to work. And when you have a bunch of East Indians or Bangladeshi or Pakistani,
people from Canada
or whatever,
like, they'll get their education paid for and then come down here to be doctors and nurses because they get paid more.
Right. But my point was, like, you have all these places that could use, like, super intelligent people, but we're importing them because we can also pay them less.
Yeah. And
because they don't, they're like,
someone's already done their education.
I'm getting paid a fraction of what my contemporary in the same or in a different department gets paid. However, I'm also getting paid much, much more than I would have if I had stayed in country. Right. Like, so they're kind of like in the middle, and they're happy. The company's happy. They get cheaper labor. They're happy because they're getting a better wage, even though it's not what their total value is.
How do you fight that as another country? Like, how do you, obviously
you have
pay
to
people
incentivize
more,
keeping them there.
Yeah. But, and we tend to think of that as paying more because that's all we know as Americans, but there's got to be, there is value to being a citizen of the European Union, just inherent value due to the benefits that you get. So it must just not be enough. I just don't get how people can be like, I want to go to a hyper competitive place where if I lose my health insurance, I die. Like, to me, it's like, hey, I guess I want to risk it all.
The grass is always greener, my friend. It's the same
True.
reason we fucking complain, even though we got it pretty good. We complain because we know it could be better, and we know that what exists now can't last. Because,
right.
When democracy dies,
it dies with thunderous applause.
That was a good ending. You didn't even see it coming.
No. That's all
I
we
think
got
we're
for this
done,
week.
right? You didn't have anything else?
No. That was pretty good. I included a link to a guy who goes much more in depth about trade school versus college. I didn't want to cover that because I think everyone kind of knows that college is a very broad education. Trade school is a bit more focused. And then, this guy, he goes, the last one we watched, he goes on to explain that I forgot the damn word. The apprenticeships are much more focused. You learn only what you need, and typically only what that company needs you for.
Hey, I had a high school buddy who started at in the call center. My other friend had a job there, and he got him a job.
Yeah,
and he started in the call center, and then he said, "I want to for a HVAC company."
Yeah,
and then he's like, "I want to do installs," and they're like, "Sure." Now he is a regional manager.
Yeah,
because their small one got bought up by like a large corporate.
Oh, nice.
And he just kept excelling, and he's like, I'm pretty much at the top of as far as I can go. Like
what you want to do too.
Do you have any other ambitions? He's like, nope. I like what I do.
Make
I
a
only
shit
have to
ton of money.
do
I'm good.
what I need to do. Go home. I get paid well. Like spend lots of time with I think he's got like, I'm going to say 50 kids. It's not 50. It's like probably like 5 or 6, but it's still a fucking lot of kids. He's like, I can go spend time with my kids.
I feel like I know who this is.
But most of the time, I just want to kind of not be with my kids and go play poker with my friends.
Yep.
At any rate, man, we already did a sign off. Take it easy, y'all. We'll have another topic for you next week.
Yep. We'll figure it out. You have a good week, all.